What did most painters of the 18th century paint? Kings in polished armor, victories on bright battlefields, mythological heroes frozen in beautiful poses, scenes where everything was clear, good on one side, evil on the other, and glory shining on top. Art was supposed to comfort people, to show order, to say, everything is under control. But Henry Fuseli looked at this world of crowns and medals and quietly asked, really? Was the biggest battle truly outside? Was the real enemy always another country, another army? Or was the real battlefield behind the closed doors of the human mind? While other painters were busy painting conquerors, Fuseli turned away from the throne and walked into the bedroom at night. He was not interested in parades. He was interested in what happens when the lights go out, the room gets silent, and the brain refuses to sleep. He did not paint emperors. He painted the moment when a human being opens their eyes in the dark and realizes they cannot move. He did not paint soldiers. He painted the invisible presence that sits on your chest and presses the air out of your lungs. He did not paint heroes. He painted fear itself. Why? Because Fuseli understood something simple and terrifying. People are not haunted by history. They are haunted by themselves. He saw that inside every calm, polite face lives a second face, jealous, angry, ashamed, hungry for things it cannot say aloud, and at night that second face wakes up. So Fuseli asked, why should I lie? Why should art show harmony when the human heart is full of storms? Why should paintings show sunlight when so many of our thoughts live in darkness? His canvas became a stage where no king stood, only shadows. Figures with stretched limbs, bodies twisted between terror and desire, half-seen monsters that may not even exist. Or worse, monsters that exist only because we do. He did not try to explain nightmares scientifically. He did not try to cure them. He did something more dangerous. He listened to them, and then he painted what he heard. That is why his works felt shocking to his time. People went to art galleries to relax, and instead they met. Their guilt, their hidden fantasies, their childhood fears, their sleepless nights. They wanted heroes. Fuseli showed them themselves. He didn't shout, he whispered. And sometimes a whisper is far more frightening than a scream. Because when there are no conquerors in the painting and only the monsters of the night remain, you are forced to ask, what lives inside me? Have you ever woken up suddenly from a dream? The room is dark. You are covered in sweat. You cannot move. It feels like something is sitting on your chest. It feels like someone is watching you, but there is no one in the room. At that moment, have you asked yourself, what was that? A dream? A nightmare? Or something else? Have you ever wondered why the human mind creates fear? Why the brain shows us its own movie at night? Who writes those scenes? Maybe the answer was given long ago, and it was given by a painter. His name is Henry Fuseli. So what does an artist really paint? What he sees, what he remembers, reality, or the things we are afraid to look at? Imagine an artist who does not paint. Kings, victories, beautiful landscapes, he paints your dreams. And he asks you, are you ready to see what is hiding inside your own mind? Why was Fuseli so strange? What did he see in childhood? What pushed him toward nightmares? Why did he choose night instead of day? Why in his paintings do we see creatures sitting on chests, dark horse heads emerging from shadow bodies asleep but fears awake? Are these just fantasies? Or are they feelings all of us have, but refuse to name? Have you ever told yourself, I'm normal, so why do I see things like this? Maybe this is normal. Maybe the natural state of the human mind is everything we try not to think about. So what is a nightmare? A warning from the brain? Hidden desires? Guilt? Or a door from somewhere else? Fuseli asked this question with paint. He didn't just paint pictures. He held up a mirror to the human psyche. Imagine standing in front of one of his paintings in a silent gallery. Why do you feel uneasy when you look at it? Why do you want to look away but can't? Why do you recognize a piece of yourself inside it? Why aren't these paintings pleasant? Maybe because they were never meant to be pleasant. That leads to another question. Do you want art to comfort you, or do you want it to show you the truth? In this video, we will ask, where do nightmares come from? What is the subconscious? How does a painter play with the brain? Why do some paintings touch us and others don't? And we will look into the life of a man who once said, "I did not choose beauty, I chose shadow." Why? Because perhaps the human being is also a shadow. Now ask yourself, when was the last time you remembered a nightmare? When was the last time your subconscious led you somewhere? When was the last time you truly looked inside your own mind? Sit back and get ready. This story is not about daylight. This story is about the things we see at night. In 1781, London woke up to a nightmare. People went to an art exhibition expecting what they always expected: beautiful landscapes, mythological heroes, portraits of smiling aristocrats. Instead, they saw this. A woman lies across a bed, her head thrown back, her body limp. Not dead, not alive. On her chest sits a small, heavy creature, with huge eyes and a grin that is not human and not animal. Behind the curtains, a black horse's head emerges from the darkness, its eyes wide and empty, as if it has seen every fear a human being can have. The title is simple: The Nightmare. And suddenly, everyone in the room feels the same thing. I have seen this before, in my sleep. People did not simply look at this painting. They reacted. Some laughed nervously. Some walked away quickly. Some couldn't move. Others whispered, "I have felt this. I have woken up like this. I just never told anyone." The critics were shocked. This was not a heroic battle. This was not a beautiful dream. This was the moment between sleep and waking, when your eyes are open but your body is frozen, when you try to scream and no sound comes out, when you feel something in the room that you cannot explain. Today we call it sleep paralysis, night terror, the brain trapped between two worlds. But in the 18th century, there was no such vocabulary. There was only fear. What is the creature on her chest? In folklore, it is called an incubus, a spirit that presses down on your body while you sleep, stealing your breath, stealing your strength, sometimes your desire. Fuseli did not paint a scientific diagram. He painted the feeling, the weight, the helplessness, the shame of fear you cannot control. The woman's pose is dramatic, theatrical, almost erotic, because nightmares are rarely only about fear. They are about everything we hide: forbidden emotions, suppressed desires, memories we don't want back. Fuseli understood something dangerous. Nightmares are honest. And what about the horse? It is not there by accident. Its bulging eyes stare straight at us, as if caught in the act of entering someone's dream. In English, there is an old word for nightmare. Nightmare, the night horse. Fuseli turned a word into a vision. He pulled language, folklore, psychology, and personal pain together onto one canvas. Because this painting was not abstract. It was personal. At the time, Fuseli had fallen in love with a woman who did not love him back. His letters to her were desperate and trembling. She refused him. Soon after, the nightmare appeared. It is not hard to see the connection. A body that cannot move, a presence that will not leave, a desire that becomes fear. Sometimes heartbreak becomes art. Sometimes art becomes a mirror that the whole world is afraid to look into. After its first exhibition, the nightmare became famous overnight. Prints of it spread through Europe. Doctors discussed it. Poets wrote about it. Ordinary people said, "This is what happens to me at night." And something important changed in art. Pain was no longer outside, on battlefields. It was inside. Inside the bed, inside the brain, inside the human heart. Henry Fuseli did not just paint a nightmare. He painted the moment when you realize your mind can be your own worst enemy and your most honest storyteller. That is why, even today, when we stand in front of this painting, we do not simply see a woman and a demon. We see ourselves. Before the nightmares, before the demons and the horses, there was a woman. Henry Fuseli fell in love with her in the only way he knew how. Completely, dangerously, without protection. He wrote her long, trembling letters. He dreamed about her. He imagined a future with her. But she did not choose him. There was no great drama, no opera scene, just a simple sentence that destroys quietly. No. And sometimes no is louder than any scream. Something changed in Fuseli after that. He did not break plates. He did not shout in the street. He did something far more powerful. He began to paint. But now his women were different. They were not passive angels. They were not soft decorations for male heroes. They were powerful, dangerous, distant, desired, and feared at the same time. They were close enough to touch and completely unreachable, just like the woman he loved. Look again at the nightmare. The unconscious woman on the bed, the creature sitting on her chest, the horse staring from the darkness. Is this only about sleep paralysis? Or is it also about a love that suffocates, a desire that becomes a weight, a person who will not leave your mind even after they leave your life? The body lies helpless, not because it is weak, but because the heart is trapped. Fuseli turned heartbreak into composition, rejection into shadow, longing into dramatic gesture. He did not say, "I suffered." Instead, he said, "Look, this is what suffering looks like." And the whole world recognized itself. Unsuccessful love did not destroy him. It transformed him. Pain became fuel. Loneliness became imagination. Private emotion became public art. He did not get the woman he loved, but he created paintings that the world would never forget. And perhaps that is another kind of victory. When love does not stay in life, so it chooses to live on canvas. Most artists paint what stands in front of them: a bowl of fruit, a king in a chair, a landscape under the sun. Henry Fuseli did something different. He closed his eyes. He did not ask, "What do I see?" He asked, "What lives inside me?" And then he treated the human mind like a stage. Not a quiet stage, a stage where light and darkness argue every night. He was not only a painter, he was the director of the subconscious. Imagine this. Your thoughts are actors, your fears are costumes, your desires are hidden scripts that no one else is allowed to read. Most people lock the theater before anyone notices. Fuseli unlocked the doors and invited the audience in. He arranged nightmares like scenes, placed shadows like props, posed bodies like dramatic performers frozen in time. Nothing in his paintings is accidental. A hand clenched too tightly, a head thrown back too far. Eyes that look not at the world, but through it. Every gesture is choreography. Every shadow is a spotlight. Every painting is a performance happening inside the skull. He once said, in his own way, "I do not paint what I see, I paint what sees me." That is the difference. A normal painter stands in front of nature. Fuseli stood in front of the human abyss. He listened to what people fear to admit. The forbidden dream, the violent thought, the feeling that both attracts and terrifies, the voice that speaks only when you are alone at night. Then he directed it like a film before cinema existed. Long before psychology had language, before Freud, before Jung, Fuseli already knew, the subconscious is not quiet, it is theatrical. Look at his figures carefully. They bend in impossible ways. Muscles stretch, spines twist, faces freeze mid-emotion. Why? Because the subconscious does not follow anatomy. It follows intensity. Dreams do not obey physics. Nightmares do not ask permission. On his canvas, reality obeys emotion. Beds become stages. Bedrooms become cathedrals of fear. Small rooms open into endless, dark interiors of the mind. He directs the light to fall not where the body is, but where the soul is burning. That is why his work still feels modern. Today we have cinema, horror films, psychology, neuroscience. He had none of that. He had brush oil courage to look inward, and he turned the invisible inner world into visible images that people could no longer deny. He did not ask viewers to understand his paintings. He asked them to feel them. And that is why people sometimes turn away and sometimes cannot stop looking. Because when you face Fuseli's art, you are not just looking at a painting. You are watching your subconscious being directed, scene by scene, right in front of you. Art, for centuries, had one main duty: to be beautiful. Paintings were supposed to calm the eye, decorate palaces, make powerful people look even more perfect than they were. Soft light, ideal bodies, smiles carefully arranged for eternity. Beauty was a mask. Henry Fuseli refused the mask. He did not enter art to make people comfortable. He entered art to tell them the truth. And truth is rarely pretty. Look at his canvases. They do not invite you to relax. They do not hang politely on the wall. They stare back, faces twisted by fear, bodies captured in the middle of uncontrollable emotion. Rooms where shadows feel heavier than furniture. Is this beautiful? Some critics said, no. Fuseli answered without words. It is honest. He understood something that many artists avoided. Humans are not made of marble. They are not always graceful or calm. Inside us live jealousy, obsession, guilt, forbidden desire, unspoken anger. We hide them behind smiles in daylight. But at night, when the room is silent and the mind stops pretending, the mask falls. Fuseli painted us without the mask. Not the face we show society, but the one that trembles in the dark. His paintings ask a simple but dangerous question. Do you want beauty, or do you want reality? Do you want polished illusion, or the trembling truth of what a human heart feels when nobody is watching? Beauty comforts. Truth changes. Beauty helps you forget. Truth makes you remember. That is why his works disturb us and attract us at the same time. We recognize something there, something we don't talk about, but we know is ours. Fuseli's legacy is this. Art does not have to be pleasant to be powerful. A painting does not need to smile to be alive. Sometimes the images that stay with us forever are not the beautiful ones, but the ones that dare to say, this is what it really feels like to be human. In the end, Henry Fuseli did not ask us to admire him. He asked us to look at ourselves, not the public version, not the polite smile, the ordered life, the controlled voice. He asked us to look at the place we usually keep closed, the room inside the mind where fear, desire, shame, memory all sit together in the dark. His paintings do not say, do not be afraid. They say, this is what your fear looks like. They do not say, everything is fine. They whisper, everything is human. And that is more honest than comfort. Today his canvases hang in museums, silent, still, but only on the surface. Because anyone who stands before them feels movement. A breath behind you, a shadow in the corner, a thought you did not invite but cannot ignore. Fuseli proved something simple. Nightmares are not enemies. They are messages. They are the parts of us that refuse to be forgotten. So when the lights go out tonight, and you wake for a second, and you feel the old familiar weight of darkness, remember this. You are not just dreaming. You are standing on the same stage where Henry Fuseli once walked, face to face, not with monsters, but with the truth inside yourself. If you enjoyed this video and want more stories like this, don't forget to like the video, subscribe, and turn on the bell icon so you don't miss the next one. Your support helps the channel grow and brings more history out of the dark. Thank you for watching.